Hi everybody, it's Elham and today I'm going to answer two questions from Ada. As you see, I am still very old-fashioned and work with paper and pen. Ada has asked, if I make low viscosity serums, do you think I need an overhead stirrer? Ada, you haven't defined what is exactly a low viscosity serum for you and what are the ingredients or the base of your serum. So it's difficult to answer. If you are making a blend of oils and active ingredients or a blend of hydrophilic active ingredients in water or another hydrophilic carrier without any tricky ingredients such as gums, then you can work in small volumes with even a spoon or spatula. For larger volumes, you can use a magnetic stirrer. An overhead stirrer is rather an overkill for this purpose. But if you have one in your laboratory, then by all means go and use it. Just you need to set the rotation speed at a very low because you don't want to create much agitation for this kind of product. The second question, which I am sure is a common question for most of you, and we have answered this question in different ways in the past, is can you use a homogenizer for gum dispersion? To answer this question, I need to go back to the theory and about the structure of the gums. Gums are large polymeric chains of different sugar units. So each gum has its own building blocks that are sugar units that are attached together in a certain composition or in a certain geometry. So xanthan gum has its own sugar units that are attached together in a certain way, and that is different compared to tara gum or compared to sclerotium or konjac gum. Each of them has its own structure and units. These polymers or these long chains, which are not a straight chain, some of them have a helix form or are bent. When they are added to water, they swell, they absorb water, they swell, and they attach kind of inter-chain attachment. So the various chains attach together and build a network, and that is the network that builds the viscosity or builds the structure and enhances the stability of your products. So working with gums is based on two specific steps, and each one of these steps should be performed and carried on separately and completely if you want to have the best and get the best from your gums. If each one of these steps is not carried on completely, you either don't get the maximum capacity of your gums, or even in worst case, you will have destabilization, you will have sedimentation, phase separation. So each one of these two steps should be performed separately. The first step of working with gums is dispersion, and by dispersion we mean you want to increase the distance between individual particles. So you want to separate them from each other so that they have enough space for the second step. This step you need agitation, and you can create the agitation either by a homogenizer or by an overhead stirrer for small quantities, even with a spatula or a spoon, or we have some videos and I will link to all of them. You can even use a kitchen mixer such as an immersion blender or a Vitamix or a Thermomix. So At this step, you just want to separate the gum particles from each other and increase the distance between them. This step is usually carried on at room temperature, and you don't need heat for this step. For the second step, which is the hydration, depending on the gum, you sometimes need temperature and heat. Xanthan gum, for example, doesn't need any temperature and is easily hydrated at room temperature, but Ecogel or Tara gum or even Sclerotium, they need heat, and if you hydrate them at room temperature, the viscosity is much lower than when you hydrate them at a required temperature. By hydration, these individual chains absorb water and swell, and by swelling they increase their volumes, and so these individual chains that are somehow in the solution, when the volume is increased, they come and entangle in each other, and that is what builds the viscosity and the texture and the stabilization that you get from using the gums. So by hydration, you want the gums to absorb water and to increase their volumes. For this step, you cannot use a homogenizer. Small volumes, you can use a spatula and spoon and come and every now and then blend, stir the blend so that the hydration is facilitated. Otherwise, you can use an overhead stirrer, which is absolutely perfect and the best way to hydrate a gum. But if you don't have an overhead stirrer, you can use even kitchen mixers such as Vitamix or Thermomix, but in that case you will incorporate too much air bubbles in the gum. It works and it will create the viscosity and the hydration will be performed well, but you will incorporate too much air bubbles in the gum. I'm going to link down in the comment to all of our previous blog posts and videos about gum dispersion, and I hope with all of this information you have now an understanding of how it works and can get the best out of your gums. I will see you in another video soon.